Rams house. Welcome into a brand new episode of the Rams Report presented by Prize Picks. Guys, play alongside all of us here at Chad Sports and get $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup when you download the Prize Picks app and use code HMA. On today's episode, though, we are going to be getting a mailbag. Guys, I have been collecting all of your questions over the last couple days on our last couple episodes of the Rams Report, everything you guys want to know around the Rams, and I'm going to answer about 10 of those questions on today's show. But if you want to be in our next mailbag, don't miss it, guys. Don't miss your next opportunity to get your questions answered and to be featured right here on the Rams Report. Subscribe today and make sure you stay tuned on all the Rams news. And once again, don't miss our next mailbag. But let's jump right into it. And I will say, props to you guys. Props to those who had their questions in today's videos, and even some of the questions that did not quite make the cut just for time reasons. Really, really sharp stuff from the Ramily as always. Like this one from Paul Sacedo, who asks us, what are your thoughts on putting Dean Connors as a punt and kickoff returner? And I think it's an interesting question, because Connors absolutely has the athletic profile that this 100% makes sense. And of course, you immediately think about one of the issues with this Rams team last season. One of the ones that kind of undid our season last year was Xavier Smith's fumbles on the punt return. So obviously, it's an area of concern for this team. It might be something you want to go in a completely different direction with as far as kick and punt returns go if you just don't trust Xavier Smith anymore. I don't know that that's where the Rams are at from a coaching perspective. They did pick up his restricted free agent tender, and brought Xavier Smith back, so he's still on this roster. But Connors, it's interesting because while he does have the athletic profile, returning isn't something he really did at Houston and Rice. Across his 3 years there, he played a lot of roles for those teams, but not really as a kicker punt returner. He filled in some bit part duty when other guys were hurt. He had 9 career returns across his college duty, and that's both punt and kick return duty. He actually never returned a punt. He only ever returned kicks. And to be honest with you guys, I just don't think he makes this final roster. I think it's going to be an uphill battle for him to stick on this roster. In an RB room that already has some guys that feel like they're set and almost locked, I honestly think Jarquez Hunter may have a little bit of roster bubble questions as well. It's hard to see Dean Connors ending up being the pick unless he does present a ton of value in this way. If he does make the roster, it's going to be because he takes over as the kick and punt returner, but that's going to be an ability he didn't show at the college level. Again, he athletically projects in that way, but he didn't really do it at the college level. So it's hard to see him just taking off on it at the NFL level. But let's move on to our next question from Brent Riley here. What's going on at the left tackle position with the stuff happening with Alaric Jackson? A great question. Something we've talked about on the channel a little bit already. If you are totally unfamiliar with this situation, Alaric Jackson currently is facing some charges over a domestic allegation, I think is the way that I'm going to choose to say this. However, last night, we did get an update on this situation. We now know that he will not face felony charges. He is still facing some misdemeanor charges at this point, but it will not be a felony situation. So good for, as far as legal updates go for Alaric Jackson, this is a move in the right direction for what you're looking to see if you want to see him back on the field this year. But again, I will say it's not a guarantee at this point. The NFL does not require a conviction in a court of law to make a solid decision here, to make a disciplined decision here. If they decide that Alaric Jackson, through their own investigation, maybe didn't violate the law, but absolutely still violated their personal conduct policy, again, I'm not saying that he did, but it's possible the NFL comes to that conclusion, they could still suspend him. So it's not a 100% guarantee that just because Alaric Jackson is taking or making a right move with the law, not being charged with a felony here, that he won't be disciplined by the NFL. Who says, with Kliff Kingsbury as our assistant head coach, do you foresee his role as helping relieve some of the burden off of McVay during the game? And he had one other part to this question as well. If we can flash it up real quick here. He had like a second part to it. Bang, there is our second part to the question. He continues, for example, play calling, managing timeouts, and or communicating with Chris Shula on the defensive side of the ball, or do you think McVay's responsibilities will remain unchanged? And I got to say, Jay, this is one of the best questions of the video. No offense to anybody else, but I thought this was such a smart question. I think it really gets to the heart of why you bring in somebody like Kliff Kingsbury, because it truly is to help with almost everything on this list. I really think that's why you want a former NFL head coach to take a little bit of that burden off of McVay's shoulders as far as managing things like timeouts. That communication with Chris Shula, I think, is really going to be key there. And I think he'll have his say in some of the concepts that the Rams run, and we'll see an effect on this Rams offense. But I'll tell you what he won't do. He is not going to have a say in play calling. Play calling itself, that is Sean McVay's wonder boy thing. Like, if you take that away from him, I think in his mind, you've taken away his biggest strength. And that is, like, the strongest arrow in McVay's quiver is his decision-making as a play caller. And I think the one thing he won't want to give up is truly his role in that. Obviously, he's open to new ideas. Nate Scheelhaase has had his input on things. Kliff Kingsbury will have his input on things, for sure, and we'll see that effect. But at the end of the day, the final decision maker will always be Sean McVay as far as play calling goes. But I truly think you're getting to the heart of it, Jay Nadich, with the role that Kliff Kingsbury will play in everything outside of direct play calling. He's really going to take a lot of that burden off of McVay's shoulders, and I think allow him to focus in more on that decision making, the things he loves to do as far as play calling and scheme goes, and it's only going to be to the benefit of everybody. Here's another really good question. If McDuffie's best work, speaking of Trent McDuffie obviously, is closer to the ball, and Garrett's presence changes protection rules up front, could this defense become less system-based and more matchup-driven on a week-to-week basis? Is that a good thing or a risk? I think this is another really good question. I think it's not necessarily matchup-driven on a week-to-week basis, but I do think you're getting to the point of it will be driven by Myles Garrett and Trent McDuffie and what they do best. We have seen throughout since acquiring Myles Garrett, we have heard Chris Shula comp him to names like Michael Jordan, LeBron James. The idea that you bring in a piece like this, not to ask them to go outside their comfort zone, but to maximize everything that they already do so well. Again, I spoke about it on yesterday's show. You don't go get a LeBron James and ask him to play full-time center for you and be a glass-crashing rebounder. You know what I mean? Like, you won't take him out of the offensive situations. You want LeBron being a complete offensive engine in. The Rams' plan here is to build things to put the two guys, not just one. Obviously, Myles Garrett's incredibly important here, but Trent McDuffie's a huge part of this as well, to put those two guys in positions to succeed. That's going to be the way they build this scheme. And again, that will involve moving Myles Garrett around the exact same way we saw them do in Cleveland last year, having him rush from a number of different places to, as you say, change the protection rules, putting Trent McDuffie in the positions he likes to be in to thrive, where he can get dirty, where he can get physical with receivers in press. These are exactly what this defense is going to lean into, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more in connection to another question later on today's show. But again, I think the true point here is Myles Garrett and Trent McDuffie are going to shape everything for this defense. Another good question here. Do you think we will add to the corner room or ride with the rookies for depth? It's interesting. As of right now, this Rams team has not made any indication that they're looking to make more additions in the corner room. There was one that I thought would have made a little bit of sense, but at the end of the day, he got picked up. He already got picked off the market. But you do look at this room, and we'll talk about that guy in a second, but you look at this room, and you just see, to your point, a lot of really young guys put in big positions to be big depth pieces. I don't know at this point that there's a name out there the Rams want to go grab. I think the one that they would have gone and picked up would have been L'Jarius Sneed. At the end of the day, it probably would have been L'Jarius, but They didn't do that. The Chiefs got to him first. The Chiefs end up bringing back L'Jarius Sneed. We're going to continue to answer your guys' questions, continue to discuss this corner room in just 1 minute. But before we do, I got to give a shout out to America's #1 sports picks app. Guys, our friends over at Prize Picks. If you are a regular viewer of the Rams Report, you guys know I love using Prize Picks, especially with the World Cup going on, guys. There is no better way to make watching some of this football action more fun than getting a Prize Picks lineup going while you are doing it. Right now, today, America plays, and I got my eyes on Flo Balogun to have another really big game. So, of course, I want to have him in my Prize Picks lineups, and I'm going through the projection options here, and the one that really stands out to me is his fantasy score. You look at the last game that America played against Paraguay, he dominated in that one. He was a huge part of America's attack. And you look at Team Australia, no disrespect, but the Aussies, I don't think they stack up very well with this really strong American team. So I do think that Flo will once again be a huge part of this offensive attack. I think he's easily going to clear the more on that 10.5 fantasy score. So that's why I've got him in all of my lineups today with Prize Picks. And you guys can do the same. You can tailor fade all the lineups that I've placed very easily by following me on the social feeds feature. And once you've downloaded Prize Picks, make sure you use code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to receive $50 in lineups. That's code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to get an extra $50 in lineups with Prize Picks. The clickable link to download the app is in the comments and the description below. Continuing our discussion of this corner room, another really good question here. If possible, why not retain Kobe Durant or Roger McCreary and push them down the depth chart? This is a good question, and it's one that I've gotten a lot and haven't really had a great opportunity to answer it. So I'm glad, that you asked it. I think it goes back to a stylistic change. Wanting to move away from corners in the style of Kobe Durant and Roger McCreary, guys who like to play off coverage, guys who fit more what we did under Aubrey. But now you have Jimmy Lake. Jimmy Lake coming in to operate this defense wants more physical corners. He wants guys who can play that kind of man coverage role, and that's why you go out and get Trent McDuffie. That's why you go out and get Jalen Watson, and why you don't retain Kobe Durant and Roger McCreary to just be depth, because at the end of the day, it's not the style of depth that you're looking to have on this roster, that you're looking to have at corner in general. They're looking to make a stylistic change here. Another question here from Duffy. My biggest question right now is how good or bad we will be in the future. And I think this kind of goes to the point of this Rams team once again has chosen to mortgage a lot of its draft picks in exchange for aggressive plays now. Once again, you are out of the first in 2027 and we had one pick in the first in 2026, which they banked on a future player. And I think that strategy right there, along with the rest of this draft in 2026, should tell you, well, I can't predict the future for you guys. This is a Rams team that, while they are, yes, trying to be very aggressive with their draft capital, they haven't done that without thinking about the future at all. They made a decision to draft Ty Simpson. They made a decision to draft a player in Max Clayer who's probably not going to play a ton in year one. Keegan Trost may not play in year one. These are your three first picks were spent on guys who will have roles on this team in maybe a year or two. I think you go back to what Sean McVay told Kay Adams in March, before you even make the Ty Simpson pick. He says, we've got this fun narrative about all in, but we're all in on really trying to be good in the short and the long term. This Rams team does not view moves like trading for Myles Garrett and trading for Trent McDuffie as mortgaging the opportunity to be good in the future, to be good now. They view it as attacking a window, but still preparing for what comes next with other moves. The move to draft Ty Simpson. That is the preparation for the future. And you've got to hope that the Rams were correct. And I think you look at their history, they've been right more often than not with these things. So you have to believe in Sean McVay and in Les Snead and their process around drafting Ty Simpson. Which, speaking of which, goes perfectly into our next question from Thingamajiggy. One of the biggest questions is who is most likely going to be QB2 for the Rams. I watched a short on the Los Angeles Rams YouTube channel on Sean McVay talking about the amazing progression that Stetson has made, However, I thought the Rams were hooked with Ty Simpson on being the future QB1. It's true. The Rams have done a lot of praise of Stetson over this last offseason. We've heard that. We've talked about that on this channel. We got a video that came out just a couple days ago called Tremendous Growth, talking about Stetson Bennett. That's the exact quote from Sean McVay. The tremendous growth he's seen from Stetson Bennett this offseason, a guy who's been in this offense for 3 full years now, entering his 4th offseason with this team this year, rolling through his 4th offseason with this team at this point, as we are quickly approaching football once again, my friends, something to get excited about there. But it does feel like he's holding the edge. It does feel like that experience, from everything we're hearing right now, is giving him a nice edge over Ty Simpson in this competition. As of right now, as of everything we've heard to this point. But I'll tell you guys, where things are going to get real for this competition is when we put the pads on. Later on in training camp, in the preseason, when real football, as Sean McVay would like to say, gets going, those two guys will be in real competition. Right now, Stetson has the edge, but Ty Simpson's not out of this thing by a mile. He could still absolutely end up being QB2 for this team. It's just a little too early to answer that question 100% just yet. Lastly here, this is a good one. You guys are going to think I sent this in from my burner, but I promise I didn't. Where do you get your amazing shirts from? That Flash shirt you had and that Stafford shirt is too tough. Thank you, Walt Nice. It's a very nice comment. And I've got great news for you, brother, because we actually sell those shirts. Those shirts that you saw me wearing, this is my favorite piece of merch that we have as a company. I'm super duper biased, but it really, really is. I think our design team did an excellent job. Shout out to Arnold for putting this together. He got this one put together on the same day as the trade was made. How quick is that? And you can now get one for yourself at the link below, chatsports.com/flash shirt. I know a lot of you guys have already picked them up. We really, really appreciate you supporting our channel and getting yourself an awesome shirt in the process. But if you want one more, you can also support our guy, Matthew Stafford. This one came out shortly after the wild card playoff win over the Carolina Panthers, where Matthew Stafford told Davante Adams, let's go snatch these guys' hearts before that game-winning drive, and did exactly that. And we whipped up this little design, and man, oh man, did they cook. I'm not going to lie. Arnold did a fantastic job once again putting this together. This is always something I get excited about wearing. Can't wait to wear this for our watch parties this season, and that one is available, chatsports.com/heart. I'm going to have the link in the pinned comment of today's video to get both of these shirts at our collection link on the website. So make sure you go check them out if you want to get yourself some new Rams merch before the season gets going. And thank you for tuning in. As always, guys, we appreciate you watching today's show, and I'll see you in the next one. Let's go, Rams.